Welcome to Enchanted Moments podcast. I'm Monica,
I'm Spencer.
and Tank is right here on the floor in front of us. He's lending his energy to this conversation about using the elements in our spell work and witchcraft. The elements are, we use 5. So air, fire, water, earth, and spirit is the 5th element. And we can enhance our work, our actual craft, but just spells are also enhanced by using the elements. And when we set a circle, we also call in the elements by the directions. So it's sometimes helpful to have either a piece of paper that you can put north, south, earth, fire, and on each place. And then when you have the ability to have a compass or someplace that will tell you exactly where north is and south is. Hold on, come here, say hi. My little familiar, aren't you? Yeah. When you have a compass, you can actually point north and see where to set it. And if you have it on paper, it doesn't matter where you are. You just point it towards which direction. That way you don't have to wonder, am I going east and looking at air? Am I going, west and water? Anyway, it's a little cheat sheet. I like to give little helpful hints whenever we can, but that's one way, unless you're always doing your circle casting at home, which is doubtful, right? Because we're going to do it other places, but at home you're going to know which direction is which. But we call in the elements to increase the power of our work with that element's particular strengths. So if we look at Earth, Earth is really giving us the base for all of our craft, all of our spell work. It's giving us that. It's the earth, it's the mountains, it's all about stability, grounding, certainty, and everybody needs it. So it never hurts to have that element, and that is the north. So if anybody is ever wondering, the medicine wheel for Native American spirituality is divided a little bit differently, although it's not that far off, okay?
Do you want me to go get your blanket?
No. We're going to put him on the floor in a minute because he's getting crazy. So that's north. If then we go south, that is fire. And fire is all about passion. It's the kind of work we would do if we wanted creativity, spells for strength and energy. Those, all the things you associate with fire. Then you would have the east, which is air, and that's about our intellect, and our communications. So if we have calling in air, you're calling in the spirits of the east, all those things that contribute to our communicating, thinking, planning, yes. So then if you think about west is water, and that element is about emotions. So it's and intuition. So when we do spells that are really going to be associated with any kind of emotional work or developing our intuition, the water element would be one that we should try to invoke a little bit more than usual. The interesting thing about the elements is that when we use them in our work, we put different things that represent them. Okay. So in the north, you would work with crystals and stones. You could also have earthy animals, earthy elementals, whatever you wanted to contribute to that particular spell, for example. If we wanted to increase prosperity and abundance, that is an earth association. So any spell that you wanted to do that had to do with prosperity and abundance and stability, then you would say work with some earth things. So you would probably work with the stones and crystals. You could also have plants. So if you had on your altar stones and crystals and some plants, then you're increasing your association with the earth element. It's layering.
Mhm.
So if you think in terms of putting additional strengths and boosts, power boosts on everything, you would add additional things to do with earth.
Yeah.
You could put the sigil for earth,
Mhm.
for example, or the pentacle is associated with the earth element. So you could do all of those things to increase your work with earth, and abundance and prosperity. If you were trying to, say, do some work on passion and your creativity, and you wanted to work with the fire element, then you would work with candles, because that's a flame. Or you could do a bonfire if it's that kind of work. Or you can work with reds and oranges and those bright colors that stimulate that sacral chakra area. You could use carnelian, citrine, and really layer some additional things on top of that work. That's how we would incorporate fire. Then if you wanted to incorporate air, you would work with things that had to do with communication and air. So feathers
Mhm.
are something you could work with on your altar or when you're doing a spell. Then you could also use anything that reminded you of air. So it could be, I know it sounds crazy, a fan, and feel air on your body. I mean, you're going to feel the heat from the candle with your hand. Water's more visual, but yeah, so you could do that. You can also use blues, so it's anything associated with the throat chakra, because it's the thing that enhances our communication. So the air elements enhancing communication, you would work with that throat chakra, and you would use blue colored things. So you could use the stones that were in the blues, celestite, angelite, apatite, all those,
Aquamarine.
Larimar, yeah, all the pretty ones, right? So that would help. And if you have problems making decisions, air element is the one you would want to work with, because it has to do with the intellect.
What about incense? Because
You're right. I forgot
but
incense.
smoke
Air is
and-
incense. You're absolutely right. That's a good visual for that. So yeah, definitely. Thank you. I
Mhm.
forgot all about the incense.
Well, it kind of fits fire too, because it's burning.
But it's not that flame. Fire
Yeah.
really is that flame and the heat and the intensity. Incense is sort of wafty.
Yeah.
So I think of it makes more sense for air.
Mhm.
You're right, it does, definitely. When you do water work, it's about emotions and intuition. And I guess most of the work I end up doing with water is intuitive. It's like to enhance my intuition. It's about flowing and moving in a transformative kind of way, because that's how we think about water. It slowly wears away its path, which is sort of like transforming in a gentler, kinder way than with an intensity of, say, fire.
Mhm.
So, but it's very intuitive. So I would put a goblet on my altar, maybe a dish of water. You could also have any of the purple kinds of crystal structures, amethyst. Trying to think what else would I do for my intuition when I work with it.
I mean, dark blues for that too.
Yeah, you could use blues, but it's more of that third eye crown chakra kind of area. So I would work with purples and clear quartz. That's always intense for that. If you need some help with meditation, I would use water. I would use that as if you wanted to set an intention or spell for meditation, getting information or channeling. That would be an element that I would work with. Spirit is in everything. And so as that fifth element of spirit, it really encompasses all of the elements, plus the connection to divine and our cosmic connections. So spirit can be ancestral. So you could have a picture of a family member who's in spirit. You could have something on the altar that creates the cosmic kind of feel for you. So you could have stars, moons, celestial bodies, pictures, stones shaped like moons, things like that would kind of get you in that spirit flow of energy. And I would use spirit for transformation specifically. Anything that you want to make changes in developmentally, for you spiritually, physically, emotionally, it just takes everything into account. And you always acknowledge spirit because it's part of everything. So that's the elements, and how you'd work with them. You have any other ideas? I mean, for earth, you could use salt, a little dish of salt. That's
Shells
always
for water.
absolutely. That's a good one. Anything to do with the sea, and large bodies of water.
I was thinking,
Shells.
because what took me to shells was I was thinking like, what if collecting rocks from the river, or the creek, or wherever you are, would those rocks from the water?
They would mean that to you.
Yeah.
Most
So
people would
that's-
associate it with earth, I think.
Yeah, but for your
For-
altar,
for mine?
your,
Yeah, I think I love shells,
yeah.
and I associate them with that strength of
Mhm.
constancy and the tides in and out and all the regulation for water, would be shells. I like that. You have any other? You're good. I'm trying to remember all the things that would be coming about, and it's kind of hard. But it's something that it's so good to add those kinds of associations when we do spell work or any kind of work. Water is excellent when we do healing work. So you could have like shells, anything that's going to remind you of the element of water. So if you're doing a personal healing for yourself and you're going to do a meditation, or you're bringing in some kind of help to do that, water is excellent. So you can do that, like take a bath. You know, it's like, that's always a good place to work with water and healing and cleansing and renewing and all those things that water does. Just be in water. I know Stevie goes down into the river, and it's an excellent place to do releasing, because you can throw something in a river and it goes away and flows down river, and so that is a good way to release things. You could write them on paper, you could put them on a stone and throw it in the river. You could,
A leaf.
anything, like, bay leaves are great, but any kind of leaf would go in a river.
Yeah.
And so those are good ways to create that extra layer of activity for your brain, so that when you're doing that kind of work, it adds to it. You don't have to do it. You can do everything by intention in your head. I mean, that's kind of the way everything works,
Yeah.
right? But when you add things to your work, it brings your attention to that. So say you're doing a spell for creativity. You want to light an orange candle. Doesn't have to be an orange candle, obviously. You could just use a white candle or a black candle, whatever, and think it's my orange candle, or tie an orange ribbon around it, or do whatever. But it brings a layer into it. And then you feel that warmth from a candle, and you see the flame, and it just creates that, I don't know what, atmosphere for it, maybe.
Yeah, because I was listening to something, and it was a podcast, and the guy asked this other guy about, like, some rituals or spells call for, like, using the ebony wand or this or that, and he asked him, what was his thoughts, and it was pretty much what you said. It's your intention. You can use what you have available, but the more exact you have it, the more energy you're giving it. If you're going to find that ebony wand,
Right.
it's just more energy towards that. So like the orange candle, you anoint it with orange essential oil.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really kind of cool. There's each element has like a huge list of things that you can do with it. It's like Earth, for example. Okay, we know the direction's north, correct? Well, the planets are Venus and Saturn, so you could do something associated with those. The tarot cards are pentacles and coins.
And once we go to planets, you can go to deities because we have all these different deity
Absolutely.
statues.
Colors, green, brown, and black. They even have food and drink. So root vegetables, grains, nuts, and herbal teas.
I mean,
So you
root
could have a little
vegetables
cup of
makes
herbal tea. You could
perfect
throw a
sense.
carrot on there. I don't know, but it gives you that idea. The animals you can use. Ask animals to come in and help you. Spirit guide animals, animal spirits: bears, rabbits, deer, mole, wolf. Nature spirits. We're going to talk about them specifically because they get a little tricky. but it's Gaia and Ceres and Demeter and Persephone and Pan. You know, those are the. Then the plants are oak, ivy, moss, cedar, patchouli, herbs, sage, rosemary, thyme, comfrey, dandelion, mugwort. So the lists are endless.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
you can do layers and
You can
layers.
find many things.
You can do whatever is going to add that to your spell work or activity. And the thing about it is, it is all about intention, but it is also about adding energy to that. And so the more energy you can add to it by layering some representation of those attributes that you're trying to bring in, for whatever reason, then you can add more things. Air, the time for air is dawn. So I did not know that. So if you're going to go out and do a spell with air, outside is nice because you're in the air, and then do it at dawn if you want. The season is spring. That makes sense to me because it's the east. Anyway, planets, Mercury and Uranus. Tarot card associated with it is swords. That's all about intellect, right? Colors, yellow, light blue, and white. Tools, wands, athmes, incense, feathers, bells. I never thought about bells. But yeah, those are also air. Light and airy foods, fruits, salad, herbal teas. You know, you never know what these things are going to come up with. But it's...
So fire obviously has to be spicy peppers.
I would think so. Water is evening.
Ooh.
Moon and Neptune, obviously.
Yeah.
Pisces, right? Cups, which makes perfect sense because that's emotions. Tools, chalice, cauldron, seashells, mirrors, and water.
Mirrors.
I know, I never thought of mirror, but I'm not sure why, actually. But, you know, you scry with a bowl of water, so maybe it's the whole idea of intuition and scrying. Fruit, seafood, sacred water, fish, dolphins, turtles, swans, seals, Aphrodite, Yamaya, Isis, Danu. Plants are water lilies, jasmine, rose, seaweed, lotus, willow, chamomile, lavender, jasmine. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And most books that have anything to do with witchcraft or Wicca have correspondences, and basically all these are correspondences. And you know, there's days of the week that they aren't mentioning, and they're associated with each one, so you could do your spell in that day of the week. I mean, there's
A
hours
lot
of
of
the day.
interconnections and
Right. So the more you throw in there, I guess the more you're going to get from your spell work. But let's see, fire, Aries, Leo, Sag, wands, red, orange, gold.
Yeah, so all the plants are Sun and Mars. Well,
Yeah, burning, anything very spicy food, citrus fruits, anything with stimulating. I never thought about that because orange, citrus, yellow. Lions, phoenix, snake, salamander, and fox. That's really weird. Apollo, Bridget, Pele. That makes sense. Hestia, Vulcan. Cinnamon, ginger, rosemary, nettle, basil. Those are all kind of...
nettle, because of...
Yeah. Cayenne pepper. So, yeah. Let's see what they have for spirit, because that might be interesting here. I did keep track of those, I think. Okay. It's beyond all time, all seasons. The center is all directions. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, because they represent transcendence. The zodiac, obviously, they're all. The major arcana, particularly the Fool, which is the journey of your soul.
Mhm.
So that's a good one. White, silver, gold, iridescent. Meditation tools, prayer beads, ritual symbols representing any divine entity is, that makes perfect sense. It's everything, right?
Yeah.
Any food or drink is just symbolic offerings because it's that giving. Winged creatures, butterflies, dragonflies, birds, and yeah, that's pretty cool. Sacred plants, anything that would be associated with sage or Palo Santo, lavender, frankincense, myrrh, those little guys. But it's all about bringing additional energy, basically, just energy into that work.
Energy, intention.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun if you think you want to do work with emotions and intuition, then go out and look at that water and what West means, and pull all those things. I don't remember what day of the week it's associated with actually, but and then there's hours in the day associated with it, and you don't have to do it. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm going to do this spell. I'm going to do it on this day of the week, and I'm going to do it this time, and I'm going to do it at, in the evening during sunset. And you just keep layering and layering and layering. And what it does is it sort of causes you to get some excitement going,
Mm-hmm.
and some, that stuff happening because I'm doing this, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to add that, and
Almost the anticipation.
Yes, and then you
Yes.
bring it about, and it's like doing the work is a fruition of all this planning, and it feels very satisfaction kind
Mhm,
of thing when you're finished, and you know that it's done and it's complete, and you did all this, and so yeah. So that's really why you do it. It's not because any individual thing has more power than another.
Yeah.
It's just all that aggregated intention and energy just goes into that work, and it just really imbues it with that extra oomph.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggest you try some of that work, but always call in the directions and the elements and associate for yourself what that means to you that particular day that you're calling in the quarters. Because air, you go east, bring in the spirits of the east, the element of air, what that means to you that day. So maybe it is about decision making, supportive of intellect, whatever, the sound of it going through trees,
Mhm.
whatever it is for you that moment. And then when you send them back, be grateful for them bringing that into your circle. So it's really a creative exercise every time we call in the quarters. I mean, you can read them from a book, but it's really fulfilling to just throw it out there and bring it in for what you associate with it that day.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that when you're doing your circle building, because it's then when you send them back, you're actually thanking them for participating and hail and farewell, but you have brought in all those qualities that you had mentioned when you were asking them to come in. So it's a very satisfying and fulfilling work that we do. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna really get in touch with your internal power, because we have it and we really don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Every cell in our body puts out 0.7 kilowatts of energy. Billions of cells in our body. We are very, very powerful individual people. And so by channeling that energy, actual energy, and using that is really giving us a tremendous amount of fulfilling work. You can do spells for others, but I don't think it works as well as when you do it for some intention of your own. We can ask for things for others, and we can do spells for others, but it's not as, how do I want to say it? It's not as focused, regardless of how often you think about that person. It's just not going to have the same effect. That's my version, as if they were doing it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone asks you to do a spell for them, at least invite them to be there with you when you do it,
Yeah.
because that's really going to make it more theirs. if you can sell a spell kit, right? People can put things together for you as tools to use, but they can't create the result for you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that.
Do you know there's a whole thing where people go onto Etsy and pay people to do spells for them?
I know. And I don't know how that would end up. I honestly don't. They're setting an intention for someone else. You don't know them. That's and I know people can channel different energy, and they can do readings over the phone, and you can you don't have to be there. But I feel like spell work should be personal.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation of how it should be. That's not saying everybody has to do it that way. But if you think about how the universe works with our energy, that person who's going to have a result from that energy should be participating in it in some way.
Mm-hmm. I also just worry about scams, but that's another side of it.
I don't understand how that works. Maybe somebody knows and can explain it. Feel free to let us know. But I don't feel it's as authentic. How about that? Not that it's not legitimate, it's just not as authentic to me to have someone else doing work on behalf of someone.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't do it, we do go do healings, but and we send Reiki, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't accept that healing, it goes into the earth. But I don't know how spell work would work. It doesn't make sense to me. But that's because I have a very strange mind, so you never know. But if you're going to do spells for someone, just have them be present. I would. If you're going to do healings, it's always nicer to be there with that person. Mm-hmm. If we can't, if they're in another city or whatever, we can send Reiki energy and send healing thoughts and prayers. But spell work just seems to me that it should be a little bit more personal.
I think that's fair.
That's just me. So you don't have to pay any attention whatsoever.
That's a good disclaimer for everything we
That's
talk
right.
about.
You don't have to pay attention to it, but if you do, what we do is based on experience. So I don't have experience with doing spells for others. So if somebody does that regularly, I would love to know how they approach that, because maybe there's a way to do that I'm just not aware of, and I'd be lovely to learn. So thank you very much, and we'll talk a little bit about working with elementals. Thanks.